Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. Authorities in Broward County, Florida are asking for the public's help this week, following a terrifying caught-on-camera shooting targeting a rental home that has left local residents shaken. The incident took place in broad daylight on August 27th at the home in question in the city of Plantation. Disturbing doorbell camera surveillance video shows a newer model blue-gray Mercedes GLE 450 pulling up outside just after 12 p.m. 4 people can be seen getting out of the vehicle before unleashing a hail of gunfire. As you can see, the whole thing was over just as quickly as it started, and while thankfully no injuries were reported, it's easy to see how things could have turned out much differently. As for the motive behind the shooting, that's still being investigated. Police say the people living in the house that was targeted are not cooperating, so understandably, that has made things difficult. On top of that, the license plate of the vehicle used in the crime was reported stolen from the neighboring city of Miami Gardens. Adding another unsettling layer to all of this is the fact that police say the same suspects might have been involved in a second shooting just 45 minutes later. That shooting took place on Interstate 95 near Northwest 103rd Street and involved someone in a Mercedes opening fire at a gray BMW and a white Dodge Ram pickup truck. Thankfully, no injuries were reported as a result of that incident either. The whole thing has left residents in the area understandably on edge. A neighbor of the house that was targeted told reporters, quote, "It surprised me. I have been living in this neighborhood for 40 years. I've never seen anything like this before. I was kind of shaken up and I was scared, but I pray." At the time of this recording, the suspects involved in both incidents have yet to be identified, and police are asking for the public's help. Anyone with information about either shooting is asked to reach out to Broward County Crime Stoppers immediately. Authorities in Oregon released a tragic update in the case of a missing woman this week, announcing that her remains have been discovered after more than a year and that a man identified as her fiancé has now been named a person of interest. According to investigators, the case began back on May 25th, 2024, when 39-year-old Kiki Mei Hong was last seen in Glenwood, Washington. Her fiancé, 59-year-old Richard Michael Mike Robinson, told police at the time he had dropped her off near Highway 14 so she could go fishing with friends. After that, she seemingly vanished. Months passed with few updates. Then on July 29th of this year, police in the city of the Dalles, about 90 miles east of Portland, responded to reports of suspicious circumstances at a storage facility on West 6th Street. Inside one of the units, officers discovered a storage box. What they found inside was horrifying: human remains. The Oregon State Medical Examiner's Office later confirmed that the remains belonged to Kiki. Authorities notified her family, who say she was originally from China and had been living in the Mid-Columbia area, though a missing persons flyer had listed her main residence as Butte, Montana. Following the discovery, investigators launched a wide-ranging effort across several states, including California, Washington, Utah, Nevada, and Colorado. Eventually, they focused on Robinson. On August 25th, U.S. Marshals arrested him in Berthoud, Colorado, about 45 miles north of Denver. He was taken into custody on a warrant for failure to register as a sex offender. At the time of this recording, Robinson is being held at the Larimer County Jail on a $500,000 bond while awaiting extradition back to Oregon. Court records show that the warrant related to his sex offender status was first issued back in December of 2024. More recently, a Wasco County grand jury indicted him on August 27th for second-degree abuse of a corpse, alleging that in June 2024, he unlawfully moved or disinterred Kiki's remains. The Dalles Police Department says the investigation is still very much ongoing, and they're urging anyone with information to come forward. Tips can be sent by phone, email, or through the department's online system. For now, Kiki's family is left grieving and still waiting for answers after a tragic end to a nightmare that began more than a year ago. Authorities in Ohio say a weekend trip to the lake for an Amish family ended in tragedy after a father and his young son were found dead, and the mother of the family has now been charged with murder. The chain of events began on the morning of Saturday, August 23rd, when emergency crews were called about a golf cart crash near Atwood Marina West, about 80 miles southeast of Cleveland. Witnesses told police that they had seen a woman driving the cart erratically through the grass, with her teenage children on board. People nearby said they began chasing after the cart and yelling at the mother to hit the brakes because they believed it was careening out of control. Instead, the golf cart flipped over the edge of a stone wall and landed in the lake. 3 of the women's children, her 15-year-old daughter and her 18-year-old twin sons, managed to escape the water safely. The woman was pulled out with the help of witnesses. However, when the first person reached her and tried to help her to shore, she reportedly told him not to assist and instead to pray for her. According to the Tuscarawas County Sheriff's Office, that was the first moment responders realized this was far more than just an accident. The woman, later identified as 40-year-old Ruth Miller, allegedly began making concerning statements about talking to God. Investigators say she later told a witness that she had, quote, given her son to the Lord. Those remarks, along with further conversations with the surviving children, raised immediate concerns about the whereabouts of the rest of the family, specifically the woman's husband, 45-year-old Marcus Miller, and their 4-year-old son, Vincent. That afternoon, search teams began combing the waters around the marina. Tragically, by that evening, divers recovered the body of the 4-year-old boy not far off the edge of a dock. The following morning, a second tragic discovery was made. Around 8:30 a.m., boats with sonar equipment detected something about 50 yards from that same dock. Divers entered the water again and located the remains of Marcus Miller. Both bodies were turned over to the coroner's office for autopsies to determine exact cause and manner of death. Authorities say the Miller family, who live in Holmes County, Ohio, are members of the Old Order Amish Church and had been visiting the lake for the weekend. During interviews with investigators, Ruth Miller allegedly gave troubling explanations. She told deputies that early Saturday morning, she and Marcus had gone into the lake together because they believed God was speaking to them and instructing them to carry out tasks to prove their worthiness and faith. She said they eventually returned to the family's RV, but that Marcus was disappointed in himself for not doing well in what he saw as his test. He then went back toward the lake to swim to a sandbar, but he never returned. Later that same morning, witnesses saw Ruth driving away from the campsite in a golf cart with Vincent in tow. When she came back, she was alone. According to Sheriff Orvis Campbell, Ruth admitted that she had gone to the dock and thrown the 4-year-old into the water because she believed it was, quote, what she needed to do as an offering to God. In further conversations with police, Ruth reportedly said that she believed she and Marcus had to complete spiritual tests, including walking on water and swimming challenges. When they failed, she told deputies Vincent, quote, became the price to pay. Authorities say Ruth also made her teenage children carry out tasks in the lake and told them to pray for their father and brother because they, quote, had gone to heaven. Witnesses confirmed that before the golf cart crash, they saw the mother and teens huddled together and praying at the water's edge. In a press conference, Sheriff Campbell described Ruth as being in the midst of a mental health crisis, calling it a spiritual delusion. He noted that investigators have been aware of some religious issues involving both parents, but that there had never been discussions of harming anyone until now. Ruth Miller is currently receiving treatment for mental health concerns, but authorities say she has also now been charged with aggravated murder in connection with Vincent's death. Meanwhile, her 3 surviving teenage children have been released into the care of relatives. Authorities say a young Ukrainian refugee who came to the United States seeking safety was brutally killed last week, and the man accused of her murder is a career criminal with a long and disturbing history. The crime unfolded on the night of Friday, August 22nd, aboard a light rail transit train in Charlotte's South End neighborhood. According to police, 23-year-old Irina Zarutska was suddenly ambushed by a man wielding a knife just before 10 p.m. She suffered multiple stab wounds, including one to her throat. Despite life-saving efforts, she was pronounced dead at the scene. Officers quickly identified the suspect as 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. He was taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries that same night before being placed under arrest. Brown now faces a charge of first-degree murder. Investigators say Irina had only recently arrived in the United States after fleeing the war in Ukraine. Family members described her as someone who left in search of peace and a fresh start. A fundraiser created on behalf of her Aunt Valeria is helping to cover expenses during what relatives call a heartbreaking time. The page has already drawn support from both members of the Ukrainian community and Charlotte locals. Meanwhile, disturbing details about Brown's past are resurfacing. Court records show that his criminal history stretches back to at least 2011 and includes charges of felony larceny, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and communicating threats. He once served 5 years in prison for armed robbery, and after being released in September of 2020, he was arrested only months later for allegedly assaulting his own sister. That incident in February of 2021 left her with minor injuries. Earlier this year, in January, Brown was taken into custody again, this time for misusing the 911 system. According to affidavits obtained by local media, police had conducted a welfare check on him after he insisted that a man-made material inside his body was controlling his actions. Officers told him he was experiencing a medical issue. Unsatisfied with their response, Brown repeatedly dialed 911 until he was arrested. Despite this lengthy track record, Brown was out on the streets last Friday when authorities say he carried out the fatal attack on Irina. The motive remains unclear, and investigators say they do not believe Irina and Brown had any prior communication before the fatal stabbing. In the wake of the crime, Charlotte City Council members have renewed concerns about safety on the city's transit system, with several calling for more protections for commuters. As of now, Brown remains behind bars, facing the possibility of life in prison if convicted. And the family of Irina Zarutska, a young woman who escaped one war zone only to lose her life in her new home, have been left devastated. Grammy-winning rapper Lil Nas X has been arrested after what authorities are calling a bizarre drug-fueled incident on the streets of LA that ended with him allegedly assaulting several police officers. The ordeal began early Thursday morning, August 21st, when calls came in about a man behaving erratically on Ventura Boulevard. When officers arrived just before 6 a.m., they found 26-year-old Montero Lamar Hill, better known by his stage name, Lil Nas X, walking down the middle of the busy thoroughfare. Videos posted online initially showed him strutting in nothing but tight white briefs and matching cowboy boots, even hoisting an orange traffic cone over his head. But another clip, later published by TMZ, revealed he was actually fully naked at one point, having shed the last of his clothing. Witnesses say Hill appeared to be reciting rap lyrics and posing runway style as cars passed by. At least one bystander picked up his discarded boots and listed them on eBay for $10,000. When officers attempted to approach, prosecutors say Hill charged at them. A struggle ensued, during which he allegedly used, quote, force and violence, along with threats to avoid being taken into custody. 4 officers were reportedly assaulted before they managed to subdue him. Hill was then cuffed and transported to a hospital for what authorities described as a possible drug overdose. By late morning, Hill had been booked into the Van Nuys jail. Prosecutors announced he would face 4 felony charges, including battery on a police officer. Collectively, those counts carry a potential sentence of more than 10 years in prison. On Monday, August 25th, Hill appeared in court. During the short hearing, his lawyer, Christy O'Connor, argued that her client had no prior history of drug use or violence, calling the incident an aberration in an otherwise clean life. She told the judge in part, quote, "This man has never so much as gotten in a schoolyard scuffle." Prosecutors had pushed for $300,000 bail, but the judge ultimately set bond at $75,000. Hill was also ordered to attend Narcotics Anonymous meetings while the case moves forward. Hill himself said very little, responding yes when asked if he agreed to the court's terms. His father, Robert Stanford, later spoke to reporters, insisting his son had no history of substance abuse. He told reporters, quote, "He's very remorseful for what happened. It can happen to any family. He's going to get the help he needs. Keep him in your prayers." Stanford added additional details in later interviews, revealing that he believed his son was experiencing a mental breakdown at the time of the incident, one driven in part by the ongoing stress of his mother's addiction issues and the pressures of financially supporting a large amount of people. By Monday afternoon, Hill was released from jail, walking out past cameras while still in jail attire. He later reassured fans on Instagram, writing, quote, "Your girl is going to be okay, y'all. That was terrifying. That was a terrifying last 4 days." The arrest came just days after Hill wiped his Instagram clean and posted new images, including a selfie of him in a fur coat, red lipstick, and a cowboy hat. In the caption, he joked, quote, "Oh no, she's gone mad. Crazy, I tell you." Lil Nas X is due back in court on September 15th. For now, prosecutors say the charges against him remain serious, and the incident has raised troubling questions about what exactly sparked his naked, chaotic walk down Ventura Boulevard. It's often said that taking the stairs is good for your health. Well, apparently, one Ontario woman took that advice a little too literally this week when she was caught in wild video footage with an actual staircase stuck to her car. The bizarre incident unfolded on the afternoon of August 26th when the woman in question, identified only as a 22-year-old from Woodbridge, was driving in the city of Mississauga. At some point, she apparently backed into a building somewhere near Dixie Road, causing part of a metal staircase to become stuck to the top of her gray Mazda. Instead of calling to report the accident, though, the 22-year-old allegedly ripped the staircase from the side of the building, then just drove away like nothing had happened. Of course, the whole thing didn't go unnoticed for very long, particularly when the woman started heading down the busy Queensway in rush hour traffic, with the set of stairs still stuck to her vehicle. Footage of the ridiculous situation was quickly captured by others on the road, who also reported what was happening to police. They caught up with her a short time later, and she was finally pulled over. She has since been charged with careless driving. Speaking about the incident in a video on social media, Peel Police Constable Tyler Bell Morena expressed his disbelief over the whole thing, stating in part, quote, "We're really not sure what the heck was going on there. The investigation's ongoing, but she's since been charged." Authorities in Northern California say a veteran fire captain has been arrested and charged with murder, accused of gunning down his girlfriend and her young son in what prosecutors allege was a calculated attempt to stop them from testifying against him in connection with another crime. The incident unfolded on Thursday night, August 21st, just after 9 p.m., when deputies with the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office responded to a home in Cameron Park, just east of Sacramento. Inside, they discovered 29-year-old Marissa Devoti Lessa shot dead in the dining room. Her son, Josiah, a second grader at Blue Oak Academy, was also critically wounded. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but tragically did not survive. A second child was found safe inside the home. Investigators quickly identified the suspect as 47-year-old Darren McFarland, a fire captain with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, better known as CAL FIRE. He was taken into custody just after midnight on Friday, August 22nd, and booked into the El Dorado County Jail. Prosecutors say the crime was deliberate and premeditated. According to a criminal complaint, McFarland assaulted Marissa in the bedroom before she tried to use her phone. He then grabbed a gun, confronted her in the dining room, and opened fire. The complaint further alleges he also shot Josiah and attempted to kill the second child, who survived. Officials believe Marissa and her son were targeted because they were potential witnesses to another criminal matter involving McFarland. At the time of this recording, exactly what that crime was has not been made public, though. McFarland now faces a wide range of charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, attempted murder, child abuse, and inflicting corporal injury. Because the case involves multiple murders, prosecutors have filed special circumstances allegations that could make him eligible for the death penalty or life in prison without parole if convicted. At his first court appearance on August 25th, McFarland pleaded not guilty to all charges. He is next scheduled to appear in court on September 29th. CAL FIRE officials confirmed McFarland was off duty at the time of the killings. In a statement, agency director Joe Tyler said, quote, "My deepest sympathies are with the family, loved ones, and community of the victims during this extremely difficult time. I too am heartbroken and shocked by this tragic event. This incident continues to have a profound impact on our personnel in the Amador El Dorado unit and beyond." McFarland has since been placed on unpaid administrative leave. Meanwhile, Marissa and Josiah are being remembered by heartbroken family members. An online fundraiser described Marissa as a light and full of love and life. Her surviving daughter, Serafina, called her, quote, "the best mommy ever," remembering how they always exchanged "I love you more" at bedtime. She also described Josiah, whom she affectionately called Jojo, as a sweet boy who faced health struggles but was always cared for by their mother. At the time of this recording, the page has already exceeded its $50,000 goal. For now, McFarland remains in jail awaiting trial, while a grieving community mourns a mother and son taken far too soon. Authorities in Minneapolis, Minnesota say a back-to-school mass at a local Catholic school church turned into a horrifying scene this week after a gunman opened fire on children and worshipers, a crime that left 2 young kids dead and at least 18 others injured before the shooter took their own life. The tragedy unfolded just after 8 a.m. on Wednesday, August 27th at Annunciation Catholic School and Church in southwest Minneapolis. The service marked the first week of classes for the parish's K-8 school. According to police, the attacker, later identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman, approached the side of the building dressed in black and began firing through the stained glass windows into the pews where children and parishioners were sitting. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said Westman was armed with 3 legally purchased firearms, a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. He told reporters, quote, 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Those victims have since been identified as 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel and 10-year-old Harper Moisky. Of the 18 wounded, 15 were children between the ages of 6 and 15. The remaining 3 victims are adults in their 80s. Witnesses described chaos inside the sanctuary as bullets shattered windows and struck attendees mid-service. Outside, residents in the neighborhood said the gunfire was so constant they thought it might be roof work and initially didn't call police. Video from the scene showed terrified parents rushing to lead their children away from the building afterwards. According to investigators, Westman ultimately entered the rear of the church before dying of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In the aftermath, disturbing details about Westman's background began to emerge. Court filings show they were born Robert Paul Westman, but legally changed their name to Robin in 2019 after identifying as transgender. Public records listed Westman's residence as a Tudor-style home less than a mile from Annunciation, where they had once attended school as a child. Westman's mother, Mary Grace Westman, also reportedly worked at the parish as a secretary until her retirement in 2021. Police say Westman left behind hundreds of pages of writings, along with a video manifesto posted online just hours before the attack. The documents expressed admiration for previous school shooters and mass murderers, including the man responsible for Sandy Hook, and revealed a fixation on killing children in particular. O'Hara described the massacre as, quote, a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping, saying the shooter's goal was notoriety. Acting U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson echoed that assessment, noting that Westman's writings were filled with hate directed at nearly every group of people, Black, Mexican, Christian, Jewish, and others, while praising mass killers. Thompson said in part, quote, the shooter's heart was full of hate. There appears to be only one group they admired, school shooters and mass murderers. Those in the community, meanwhile, expressed shock. A neighbor recalled seeing the Westmans as a seemingly normal family, hosting gatherings with kids playing in the yard. Westman's uncle, former Kentucky lawmaker Bob Helleringer, told reporters, quote, he was my nephew, and I wish he had shot me instead of innocent school children. It's an unspeakable tragedy. Investigators also discovered that just before the shooting, Westman had uploaded disturbing videos to YouTube, displaying weapons and handwritten notes, many scrawled with messages. Those videos were taken down after the massacre. Officials revealed that Westman had no prior criminal history, though a welfare check for mental health reasons had once been conducted at their home in 2018. More recently, Westman had gone through a breakup and was staying with a friend in the Minneapolis area. Police executing search warrants at multiple properties seized a tactical vest, electronic storage devices, and additional writings. Chief O'Hara emphasized that while investigators will continue to search for specific motives, quote, no evidence will ever be able to make sense of firing into a church full of children. For now, a community is left grieving the loss of Fletcher Merkel and Harper Moisky, while many more children and elderly parishioners recover from injuries. Authorities say their focus is on supporting the victims and their families, and ensuring that the shooter's name does not overshadow the lives cut short inside Annunciation Catholic Church. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.